In this quick exercise, I would like to show you another application where you start modeling the very basic polycounts, and then when you need a finer resolution or localize more details, you don't create loop cuts, but you can, for example, bake a subsurface modifier. So what you see here on the right side, that is my spoke from the front wheel and the spoke of my left wheel with the geometry for the electric engine inside. And I created this design by simply duplicating this one and then having this section selected and then scaled along Y and Z, restraining the x-axis, and then did a little bit of push and pull, and this way basically created it. But what I don't like is how this, for example, is just art. I rather would like to have something like this, where it flows this way. The problem is I don't really have geometry points there to pull something out. I could create a loop cut and then maybe pull it out, but then it gets a little bit uneven. I would have to go in and then maybe by hand try to smooth it out. And you see it's a lot of work. So I don't really want to do it this way. Technically speaking, it's possible, but it's not really efficient. So what would be a possible way? So let me show you. I'm going to select this model and duplicate it. And I'm just going to move it over to here. So I can, for example, select all those points because those I don't need anymore and just delete them. And then from my original back design, I duplicate it, snap to select, oops, wrong one, cursor to selected, and snap selected to cursor, okay, good. And then in here, I'm actually going to select everything outside and delete that. So I have now my engine part and the spokes. And now the task is I need to create a geometry like in here that I have the amount of points to connect my spokes, but also enough points, for example, to have a nice flow in between. However, as you can see, I have the same amount of geometry points, so I need to double this. And to do this, I go to the subsurface, set it to 1, that will be sufficient in my case. Click apply, and I can clean this up a little bit because there are too many loop cuts along this direction, which I don't really need. This one got somewhat damaged, so I have to fill it in. Doesn't want to. Okay. Well, before I try to model and fix it, a simple duplication will be quicker than trying to model it by hand. Okay, good. So this works now. So this geometry I join now together with my spoke object. So you see I have my engine part, my spoke part selected, and then I press Ctrl J, or again, I can go to the object menu, so that they all are inside one 3D container. And then I can select those two outer edges, maybe press E to extrude, S and X, so I move them away, and then I press E again, S, X and 0, remove doubles. And now I can see this point I could connect to here. This point I could connect to here. But now I have 2 points here. I only have 1 point here. That means this loop cut has to go and has to be replaced by 2 loop cuts. So I have 1, 1 and 1, 1. So I can do this in pairs. And maybe this one I scale along the x-axis one more time. Along the z and y, and restrict along the x-axis. And then I can go ahead and, for example, delete those faces. Okay. And then selecting my loop cuts and start bridging. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And as you notice, if it doesn't work, sometimes it helps if you close one side, because then the software knows better how you want the surface to flow. Here again, it seems to be like a twist issue. Okay, so there we are. And then at this point, I can, for example, scale those in a little bit if I want to. You notice that those points, for example, dip in. So I have to select those. And push them out a little bit. And actually those loop cuts I don't really want, so I remove them. And then I can reapply my edge creasing. And that's basically then the way how you create this design, by taking your basic shapes, and then if one shape needs to have, like in my case, the double amount of geometry points, you simply apply the subsurface modifier with a level 1, because that doubles the amount. Then you can clean up the mesh a little bit and then continue sculpting your design.